Sam, so why is Iran bringing these contracts online now?
Well, Yusuf, the government in Iran wants to really grow the economy very aggressively, and the way to do that is to bring foreign investment in. The oil industry is a really good candidate. It's the biggest sector of the economy. It's way behind in development after years of sanctions. Now that those sanctions are lifted, it's time to bring the investors in. But the contract model that currently exists really isn't very attractive. It's not up to modern standards, so that's why there's a new one coming in to try and lure the big oil companies into Iran.
So does that mean that from an oil perspective, Iran would be open for business once they green light this new format?
Possibly. It's a bit more complicated than that. Iran's still a really risky place to do business. There's a lot of US sanctions still in place, a trade embargo. Investors are concerned about anti-bribery and corruption. There's a lot to think about, and what we need to look for is whether or not this contract offers them enough rewards to offset those risks.
So which companies are we talking about here, Sam, that could be interested in taking up Iran on these new contracts?
Well, Iran says it wants really big international oil companies that have the ability to bring in billions of dollars, world-class technology, excellent management. There's only a handful of companies that can do that, and those are the ones that Iran is aiming for. It says it's aiming mostly at European companies. Asian companies as well are going to be very interested, but American companies aren't going to be able to take part because of the US sanctions and the US trade embargo that's still there.
Yeah. You know, Sam, we just had a few comments out a couple of days ago from one of the SOCAR oil traders, and he said that fears of a revival, immediate revival of Iran's oil industry are exaggerated, and that the reality has proven far less grim. What does it mean for the supply picture, this latest development in Iran?
Well, that comment is certainly valid. We have to wait and see whether these contracts can bring in the investors. There's reason to be sceptical about that. And even if they do, we're talking a significant time frame here, at least a few months. However, if Iran does manage to bring in the big investors, it does want to increase its share of the market and its presence in the market. It wants to add 600,000 or 700,000 barrels a day to production in the next 5 years. Most of that will be exported into the market. And with Saudi Arabia cutting its sales prices to Asia, that dynamic of competition within OPEC, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, fighting for market share, that's the dynamic that's still at play here.